Hello! So this evening we are going to look at Volanta from Orbex. It's a free application you can download and run alongside Microsoft Flight Simulator that will track where you are flying in the simulator and allow you to look back at where you have flown and what aircraft you have flown over time. But it actually does a lot more than that. And it doesn't just track Flight Simulator, it also allows you to track Prepare 3D, FSX and DCS and X-Plane as well, I think. So I think before we look at Volanta, it's worth having a look at the flight planning tools available to see how Volanta really differs from them. Because at first glance it's not going to be obvious how it's different. So the first one we're going to look at is LittleNavMap. So you've seen me feature this before on the channel. So LittleNavMap is a great flight planning tool and it's a free download. So we can't really complain about its functionality because, you know, it's free. It lets you obviously plan out your flights and you can see your live position with a little yellow aeroplane on the map as you're flying along, and it leaves a dotted line behind you as you fly. So I'll do a sample flight in a moment so we can look back at what LittleNavMap did and what Navigraph did and what Volanta does. So yes, it's very good at flight planning, not so good at flight tracking because you don't get a historic view of where you have flown in the past. It does have logbook functionality, but it's not great. So on top of that functionality, LittleNavMap also lets you see the AI aircraft in the simulator, so you can see them here flying around Heathrow at the moment. And you can also show online aircraft. So if I go and zoom in onto myself, I'm running a small program in the background called Transmitter that I wrote a couple of years ago. So you can see I'm being shadowed by a little red aeroplane now. Transmitter was a bit of a hack really. When Flight Simulator first came out, we discovered that it didn't broadcast user positions onto a map. So I wrote this little program that connects to the simulator, transmits your data up to a database on the internet, and then you can configure tools like LittleNavMap to read that data in the same way that they can show things like VATSIM aircraft locations. The only problem with Transmitter is once 40 or 50 people are using it at once, it tends to start lagging and fall over. And the reason for that is just the way it works. It tries to do something that none of the other programs do, which is keep an almost live view of everyone's position, but that means everyone's transmitting and receiving everyone's position all the time, which is like 100 updates a second, and that's how to kill the internet. So that's LittleNavMap. Great at flight planning, not so great at flight tracking. Then we've got Navigraph, which is obviously fantastic at flight planning, and it has charts that LittleNavMap doesn't have. You can obviously show the higher altitude aviation charts, so it's a different tool for a different job really. They've introduced VFR into it, and it's quite good at it. And it shows you, things like circuit diagrams, which are really great for places like Wickham, by the way. Anyway, getting off the subject. Navigraph is even worse in terms of flight tracking. It doesn't remember where you've flown really at all. It remembers your flight plans that you've generated, but it doesn't show you where you actually flew. It just shows you this little aeroplane, and there's no facility to show anybody else. So let's go and have a look at Volanta and see what Volanta is all about. So when you first launch Volanta, all you see is a map of the world, and you can zoom in and out very quickly and easily. It's very fast, very smooth, and you can see yourself on the map. You can also see everybody else if you choose to that's using Volanta at any one time. So if we pop open the right hand side of the map, we can click on showing the various networks of people that might be using the simulators. So if we click on Volanta, there's thousands of them. Okay, and those are live or within about the last 10 or 20 seconds of where everybody was. Beyond that, if you go and click on somebody, you can see where they took off, where they're flying and where they're going. It's fascinating, isn't it? So if I click back on myself, that will disappear. So we can show VATSIM aircraft, and they're all color coded, IVAO, Pilot Edge, POSCON, and you can also see the VATSIM sectors. So if we zoom out, you can see which sectors are being controlled right now by VATSIM controllers. If you hover over one, click on one, you can find out the details about each controller, like frequencies, their name, that kind of thing. So you can see there's lots of information you can overlay onto the map in Volanta, and it's live within the last kind of 10 seconds usually. You can also overlay the airports, so obviously when you go and click on them you get details about the airport, which is really nice as well. You can close out of that. You also get map overlays, so we're obviously showing just a basic vector map at the moment. If we zoom out, obviously I'm recording at night time, I've rewound the time in the simulator, but you can show the day-night line on the globe, on the Mercator projection. You can also show anybody that's taken screenshots recently, so Volanta can be configured to share your screenshots out with the rest of the world. So as you're flying along taking screenshots, other people can see them on the map and go and have a look at them while they're using Volanta. You can also switch to satellite mode, and it's very fast and very high resolution. So if I come right down here onto Wickham, you can see it's stunningly good actually. Okay, so if I zoom back out, you can also project the weather onto the map, so I'll just go and turn those airfields off actually, just to keep this nice and clean while we're talking about it. So you can see the weather radar projected onto the map, which is really useful. If we're in the US, you can sometimes have, you can see at the moment that sections or that option has been switched off. US sectionals should be available in Navigraph. So I'll wait and see. I don't know why they're off at the moment. It's absolutely, typical, isn't it, that I record a video and they're off the night. So I could have showed you that and I can't. Anyway, so you can see there's lots of overlays you can choose, and they keep adding to these overlays over time. Okay, so what else can we do? So if we come back out of here, you can see when we started Volanta, it immediately asks us the question about the current flight we're doing. So it wants a call sign. It knows what aeroplane we're in. It's got the tail number there already. So if we go and have a look, just to confirm that, ASXGS. So it wants a call sign. So we'll put in VFL 0100, which is my call sign for Virtual Flight Online. And we can put a flight number in, so we'll put VF123, don't really mind. We can upload an aircraft image. Now, we don't have to do any of this, by the way, but we can, and I've got an aircraft image pre-prepared, like children's TV style. And I can upload that into Volanta, and it will remember it. So if I load Volanta up in the future using the same aeroplane, it will pull up the same screenshot of the aeroplane. So it knows we are at Wickham Air Park. So all we need to put in is where we're going to. So EGTR. And again, we don't have to do that. It will track your flight regardless. So you can always just leave Volanta running in the background, and it will detect you taking off and landing and record each flight fully automatically for you. But if you want to, you can actually give it more. So for example, you can give it your flight plan. So we could upload a PLN file, or we can enter the text route. So just for speed purposes, notice we can also pull in SimBrief. So yes, just to make this nice and quick, we're going to enter the text route because it's such an easy one. So EGTB via the BNN VOR to EGTR, and we'll save the route. And as soon as we do that, it superimposes it onto the map, which gives you half a clue that Volanta knows about waypoints. It knows where they are, and we can take advantage of that. So if we come back into here, just above those overlays in the map options, we also had the option to load nav data. So if we do that, I think this comes from a combination of online and your own simulator. So it shows you fixes, nav aids, airways and labels. And obviously you can see it's lit the map up like a Christmas tree. So we can switch things off that we're not really interested in. So if we just want the nav aids and the labels for them, we can see there's that BNN VOR. It's also worth pointing out we can go and highlight the airports as well, just to put little markers on them to make them obvious. When you hover over them, you can click on them and get all the details about a particular airport, for example. Okay, so you can see there's a ton of functionality about what you're choosing to see. But the real crux of this is we didn't have to fill this information in, but we have. And now we can just minimize Volanta, and we'll come back and have a look after we've done our flight at what it does. So for ease of doing this demonstration today, I'm going to press Control and E. So the airplane will get itself ready. So make sure I've got controls working. We'll center the view up, turn the head tracking on, center the head tracking up. Okay, so we just need to go and switch on the Garmin's, or wait for them to configure themselves. Let's taxi out to the holding point while we're waiting for that. So we'll just sit up in the cockpit so I can see where we're going. So this is not how you're supposed to operate a Cessna, by the way. So we're just doing this to get our show on the road remarkably quickly. I appear to have no nose wheel steering. What's going on with that? I think it's just the wind causing it. Oh no, there's hardly any wind. I'm just looking at the windsock. Give the controls a waggle, see if there's a calibration issue maybe. Okay, so we'll just come up to the holding point here, put the parking brake on. We'll run at 1000 RPM just to stop people from putting 100 comments on the YouTube video that I sat the airplane on idle for too long. So we're just waiting for the GPS. Calibrate the altimeter, calibrate the directional gyro. Yeah, so Control E, look, didn't operate the lights. That's interesting, isn't it? So we want the taxi light on, the nav light on, strobe light because we're about to go onto the runway. We'll put the landing light on already. So we're looking okay, actually. But again, today is not about the flight. Today is about the tracking of the flight with Volanta. Okay, so we have our airplane on the map. So let's press the flight plan button. I'm just going to turn head tracking off to do this so we don't wiggle around too much. So we're going from EGTB, and then we're going to go via the BNN VOR. And we're going to go to EGTR. Okay, there are various switches that are flicking in the cockpit, and I'm not entirely sure why that's happening. Just keeping an eye on it. It's stopped doing it now, hasn't it? Okay. Don't you hate it when Flight Simulator starts doing random things to you? So we've got a basic flight plan programmed in anyway. So the GPS is in GPS mode, which is great. Also, should I say the avionics are in GPS mode. Let's put the yoke back on so we can see what we're doing while we're flying. Okay. So let's go and take off. So we don't need flaps in the Cessna for a takeoff, not on this runway length anyway. You only need them really for short takeoffs. So gently rotate, and we're in the air. So we maintain runway direction until we get to the edge of the airfield at Wickham. Okay, then we turn to 230 degrees. Maintain our climb. And we look out for the Hambledon Valley, which is just over here. We're just approaching. So we're coming up through 600 feet over the ground. So this valley along here, we'll turn right and fly along it in a moment. So we're we're just coming up to 1500 feet. So we're going to continue climbing today because we're not doing the circuit or the pattern. There's the valley. So we're going to essentially turn right in a moment and fly off towards just right of that obelisk you can see in the distance. So 2,000 feet. Let's begin our right turn. Whoa. Just been hit by some kind of strange weather event happened then in the simulator. Very odd. So there we go, we're at 2,500 feet now. We'll come back off the throttle. Try to stabilise the airplane. You can see the airplane being pitched around. Interesting. It's doing it again, look. Okay, so we'll engage the autopilot and we'll go for altitude hold. We'll also get the heading bug round to the direction we're actually going and go for heading bug mode. So what you're actually looking for here, we can do the right turn now actually. Yeah, I'll come back off the autopilot, we'll fix it in a moment. Just looking for this animal on the ground. It's just underneath the airplane actually. People call it the beast, I think. So we're turning right now for 60 degrees. So we're above the normal circuit, climbing out to 3,000 feet, which is fine. So we're nearly at 60 degrees. So we're just loosely following the pattern out of Wickham, but above it now. So we can just exit. So we'll fly 60 until we get past the visual reference point down here, which is the golden ball on top of the, I think it's the Hellfire Caves it's called. So autopilot can come back on. We'll put the heading correct now to 60. I bet it's a lot quicker to do this in the real aeroplane than it is in the simulator. It's a real pain. And should we go and tell this to go to 3,000 feet for us? Okay, so we're flying along, but you can see we haven't joined the track yet. If we go and actually closely look at this. So as we exit Wickham, we're looking down for that reference point. Are we past the house yet? So here we go. Here's the house with the golden ball on top of it. I'm not sure if it's wonderfully modelled in the sim or not. There's the ball. I think this is part of the Orbex update, to be honest, so I think I've got a better version of this than the simulator had. So I've actually got the visual reference point. So normally you'd get that to the side of the aeroplane and turn right for the pattern back in towards the airfield. But we're flying 3,000 feet, we're absolutely fine. So we can lean the engine out actually at 3,000 feet. Okay, so let's go and put ourselves on an intercept course now with the GPS track. So we can zoom back out on the GPS. You can see the route over to Bovingdon. So while we are flying along, I'll just get us onto the GPS track. We could actually just go and press on the autopilot the nav mode button. It'll probably allow it. No, it won't actually yet. It's not close enough yet. So it's just coming in, look. So we're operating in GPS mode. So I think it's when it's within one tick on the gauge. It's quite bumpy today, isn't it? So let's go nav mode now. Is it not going to work? Interesting. Should we? Let's try cycling this. Sometimes this has a bad day. Yeah, it's working now. It's having a bad day. Just cycled the CDI button, and it made it rethink the error of its ways. Okay, so now this is flying along. I can leave it be and let it fly along at 3,000 feet. We'll just open the engine up a little bit. It can go a bit faster than 110 knots. So where's the RPM on this thing? I don't want to go and overstress it too much. Okay, so we'll leave it flying along, and let's go and have a look and see what Volanta's been up to. So there we are, on the map. And you can see the track of us leaving Wickham, and then flying out part of the circuit, and then deviating back towards the GPS track. But this is where it becomes fun. We can look at it in 3 dimensions. Not only that, once you start playing with having the satellite mode as well, you can absolutely see in detail your track. So there's our taxi out, there's the climb out, there's the turn along the Hambledon Valley, there's the turn towards the Golden Ball, there's the deviation back, and you can spin this around in 3D to really have a look at what you did. And this will keep updating every 10 or so seconds, every 10 or 20 seconds, with where you are. Isn't it great? So if we turn on the other Volanta aeroplanes, we can obviously do the same for those as well. So there's one over here, for example. And can we see anything about them yet? No, we can't. Oh, that's a shame. Let's go and try this one. Yeah, so this one's just taken off, look, from Heathrow. But he hasn't put his flight plan in. Notice I said you didn't have to. Here's another one, flying across the map. And he's done the transatlantic trip by the look of it, look. You can see where he came from in extreme detail. There's his climb out from Elk Grove. Fantastic, eh? Look at that. And here's us in our tiny little Cessna, flying out towards the Bovingdon VOR and then into Elstree. So you can see as well, obviously, you can overlay the weather onto the map as well. So if we zoom out with the weather on there, that's going to be in 3 dimensions, or mapped in 3D onto the ground. But isn't it fantastic? Just having this as a facility. So I'm just using the mouse with the right mouse button to do this. If you do get muddled up, you can just press the recenter button and it comes back. So obviously, if we want to see our details here, we can just click on the aeroplane and it pulls us back up. We can also see statistics, so we can see the live information from the last time it read from the simulator. We can put some notes in, so testing out Volanta. We can take screenshots. Remember we said that we could put screenshots in if we wanted to. So what else can we do? So at the moment we're just showing the map and we've got this active flight going on. We can go to flights and we can see all of the flights we've done in the past. So these are the tracks of all of my old flights when I've been running Volanta in the background. So it's by no means all the flights I've done, but it's the ones when I have been running Volanta. So I can click on one of them, for example, one of my old flights, and I can see where it was. And once we've landed and we can have a proper look, we could, for example, pull that flight up, and you can do the same thing in 3D, look. So I just don't want to get too distracted of looking at this and then completely losing touch of what we were doing. Okay, so something that's worth pointing out here actually though, is you can see there's a little marker there. That's where I touched the runway. So it gives you your landing point in extreme detail and where you were on the runway. So, you know, right down to how close you were to the centre line. It's mad, isn't it? So zoom all the way back out. And again, we can do recenter if we get lost. And just come back in on ourselves. Click on me, and I'm back. So yes, so it records your flights forever. So you can see there's 366 flights from my past in here. You can go to aircraft and look at aeroplanes you have flown. And some of them I've bothered with screenshots, some of them I haven't. So you can see, it's very cool, isn't it? So then you could pull up an aeroplane and see where you've flown it around the world. There's also activities, so there's some fun things to do around things like aero caches. So I'll just keep an eye on this of where I am. Oh, we're almost on top of Elstree already, look. We're zooming along. So yes, you can do aero caches, so you can go and we'll have a quick look. So we can... There's a good one here, look, the first A340 landing in Antarctica. So you can go and land there and pick up the aero cache. There's various challenges, so doing various, all sorts of things. Events that are taking place, so these typically are VATSIM events. I need to go and take control of this aeroplane very soon, don't I, to come into Elstree. But you can see there's a ton of stuff built into here. If you have a paid account with Volanta, I said some of the options are pay options. You can get things like real-world schedules and actually use them in your simulator yourself. So you can actually pull up either British Airways or whoever it is, their real flight plans, and go and fly them. You can build teams from your friends. You can also mark people as friends, so then you can look on the list and see if they're in the air and find out where they are, which is really useful as well. But yeah, so this is Volanta. It's a fantastic free tracking tool. There are paid options, but mostly it's free. So look, we can see now in 3 dimensions coming into Elstree. If you go and turn the satellite mode on, there's the airstrip, there's us coming, so let's go and see. So according to this, we should be able to come off the... And there's the airstrip. So we just deviated to the right so we can see it. So we'll go and do an approach. Let's just go and check the wind, and this is where things like LittleNavMap are really great, because you can get a snap look at the wind. So the wind's from 300 degrees, so it's going to be a crosswind no matter what we do. So Volanta doesn't stand alone, you use it in concert with other things. So we'll just do a left pattern in. So back to a rich mixture, cut the throttle back while we're descending. The view has moved slightly, hasn't it, where we've been diving around all over the place. That's better. So yeah, I can't kind of emphasize enough how useful Volanta is, and you can just leave it. There are options to have it run automatically when you start your computer, and as I said, you don't have to fill in your flight details. So if it's just running in the background and you're running Flight Simulator, it will be recording where you're flying from and to, because it detects the takeoffs and landings fully automatically. We'll just bring the aeroplane back in. But obviously we'll be able to see this approach in 3D once we've landed. So it's fascinating to go and look and see how you did. Obviously if there's a few of you doing a group flight, you can all land and then look at each other's tracks once you've landed. So pretty much there on the FASI lights. One red, one white. Oh, we've gone low. Just a bit more power. So there's different schools of thought with approaches. Some people will be absolutely firm in their conviction that you should hold the same attitude and use power to control descent rate, and other people will be more ambivalent about it, about using both pitch and power. I don't mind either way, as long as it's safe. It's fine. Okay. Strobes can come off. Landing lights can come off. I know somebody will tell me off for turning off the landing lights before I left the runway. But again, as I said right at the start, this isn't about me flying the aeroplane perfectly. This is about having a look at that 3D chart in a moment. So, welcome to Elstree. So normally I go and taxi all the way down through the aeroplanes. Should we go straight in through this big gap over here? Shortcut it. Why is it wherever I land there's a fire engine waiting? It's almost like they know something. Wait till the controls out. Okay, let's pull the mixture. Avionics off. Nav lights off. Taxi lights off. Beacon lights off. Master. Power and alternator off. Magnetos off. And we live to fly another day. So let's go and have a look and see what Volanta made of our approach. Isn't that wonderful, being able to see it in such detail? And obviously we can then come in and look and see a landing rate even 118 feet a minute at 52 knots, wind 230 at 7. That's good, isn't it? We can see the exact point we touched the runway as well. So that is what Volanta is all about. So you can see here it says flight ending soon. Your flight will automatically be completed, and it's done it, look. It's finished the flight. So it knows I might be flying again, so it's getting ready to do that. So if I want to see the flight I've just done now, I can come into flights and I can see it here, look. So I can pull that back up, and there it is. So there you go. I don't think there's much more to say about Volanta, to be honest. Other than you can obviously configure this however you want, and it comes into its own really for group flights, where you can see a collection of little blue aeroplanes flying along together. So obviously on a group flight you don't need to know up to the second of where each other are, but the last 10 or 15 seconds is perfect. So you'll see a little cluster of blue aeroplanes flying along, so you know if you've gone the wrong direction maybe. So yeah, I'm going to leave it there. So that's Volanta from Orbex. We were using it with Microsoft Flight Simulator. You can also use it if we go and have a quick look in the cog menu. You can see simulators. I've got DCS World installed. It will work with it. I've also got Flight Simulator. I haven't got any others installed at the moment, but obviously it will automatically detect the installation locations of the various simulators. It's very good. Okay, I'm going to leave it there. Hopefully you enjoyed that, and I'll see you again soon.